Well, good morning, everybody. We're excited to have you with us this morning, and what a great honor it is to have our Governor DeSantis, and Secretary Mark Inch is with us as well. It's the second time within 6 months, and so we're really excited to have you. And we have a number of our distinguished guests, Representative Court Byrd and Representative Duggan, and we have Travis Cummings. All of these have been tremendous champions of our work. So we're honored to have all of you with us today. Robert Blunt is here, I think, somewhere. He runs our Ready Fork, Tallahassee operation, and we thank you, as well as we have Melissa Nelson. Where's Melissa? Melissa Nelson, our state attorney. So grateful to have, and so many wonderful partners that make this work happen. 21 years ago, we began working in this community with the idea that we wanted to take a community that was once a vibrant, rich community in the urban core that had really become maligned because of the issues and ravaged by poverty, drugs, and crime. And it was a process that really would require a lot of change. One of the things that we came to see early on was a lot of the folks that we were meeting and doing this work here had one common thread that was happening, and that was they had a criminal record, and they couldn't get a job, and they could not break out of the cycle of crime. Our board saw this as a tremendous opportunity to do two things: to build infrastructure, but also take an opportunity to rebuild some lives. And what we saw from that was pretty remarkable. Not only were they staying on the job, but they were staying out of the jails and prisons. And so we realized that in order to build really, really strong communities, we had to build public safety, which is going to move people back into some of these communities. But we also had to have sustainable economic development programs, jobs, that would really be a big part of that. Our Ready for Work program is really built upon the premise of 4 strategic partners, being our criminal justice partners, is obviously the Florida Department of Corrections, and our judiciary, and our state attorney, and public defender. All of those are really important. But also our faith community, business, and our community partners have really been able to help us address these issues in a significant way. I also want to point out, Governor, that this is really important that we have a deep commitment of public-private partnerships. We have one of our donor, our philanthropic communities, the Advisor Foundation. I got to say, 10, 15 years ago, we were lucky to get a $1,000 check. This foundation has committed $6 million over the last 8 years to this work, and is really, really significant in what we do, and we really thank you. But we're also excited that the state of Florida has trusted us in this work and has been supporting this work since 2006. We also partner with the Florida Department of Corrections. I was talking to the Secretary before. We're in 17 facilities doing pre-release work, and we're excited about the fact now that we got about 44% of those folks who are coming out that are actually making it here. Our 20-year track record that we're really excited about has really been built upon the platform of bringing employers into the conversation. And I know this is important to the Governor. We have over 500 employers locally that have agreed to engage in this work. When we started, it was hard to get one. And so we're really excited about them seeing the value of bringing vetted workers to the workforce, especially when we have an unemployment rate that is so low today. And so we're excited about that. We also have our Florida State College that's providing vocational training with us, as well as University of North Florida. But as we saw, and we talked about Governor DeSantis when you were here before, our recidivism rate with this work is a third of what the state's recidivism rate is. And so we're excited about knowing the kind of opportunities that are there. And so I got to say, too, that this morning I mentioned to the Secretary, I read his note to the inmates. And I got to say, I've been involved in this work for 20 years. And I have never seen the type of a commitment, especially with the Secretary talking to the inmates about how important to be working on issues that can help them be successful when they come out. And so, Secretary Inch, I just want to commend you for that deep commitment. And we are so very honored, Governor DeSantis, to have you with us again, and we thank you for all the leadership that you're providing to these issues.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks for having us here again. We were here, about 6 months ago. We had the Vice President, we had some Ivanka Trump and some other folks highlighting the good work that you guys have done. And we obviously statewide want to take the recidivism rate closer to where you are than where we are statewide. I mean, we have about 94,000 inmates in our state's correctional facilities. We do have a declining crime rate, which is obviously good, but we also look at some of these folks who've committed some serious crimes. Once they serve their sentence, they're going to be out there. And so do you want them to have a pathway to be productive, or do you want them to be more likely to go back to a life of crime? And the way I look at it is, you have some people who get out of prison who you don't got to worry about because they will never go back. They've learned their lesson, and they're just going to stay. They're not even across the street. That's not a majority, but there are some. Then you have some who, no matter what you do, probably not going to be able to get them to do the right thing. But I think the vast majority of these folks are people who would not like to go back, but if they don't have any opportunities, then you know, they're likely to be pushed back into making some of the poor choices that landed them in prison in the first place. And so I think what you've done here is provide people with a pathway, and so we want to be able to do that statewide. Now, our current budget, we put over $92 million for reentry programs like Operation New Hope, and my budget for this upcoming fiscal year included an additional $9.3 million for reentry programs. But as we've done that, what we figured out was state funding is not the only solution. We have to have the private sector engaged. The communities need to be involved. They need to have skin in the game. And so that's what brings us here today. We are going to, in conjunction with the Florida Department of Corrections, create a new direct support organization called the Florida Foundation for Correctional Excellence. And this will be an additional tool that will provide a means to work with private partners and community members to fund career readiness training and reentry programs. You go around the state in certain industries, road building, construction, some of these, people are looking for good, dependable workers. And I would much rather dedicate our resources to taking people who are Floridians and giving them a chance than having people come in from a foreign country, oftentimes illegally. So we've got to take care of our own here. But I think what we found is the businesses who have worked with people getting out of prison, who provided the right training and skills, have found that a lot of these folks are very dependable employees. And there have been pockets of really good success throughout the state. So what we want to do is expand that through this foundation. Now, it'll have an independent board. It will raise private funds and engage in direct partnerships with corporate and nonprofit entities who show a true desire to improve the lives of inmates looking to re-enter the workforce. And if you think about it, you know, we can sit there and think on the state level like, oh, let's do this skill, let's do that skill. The people in the private sector know what is in demand. And so if they have a need for something and they're willing to come in, provide time, money, and resources to be able to equip these inmates with these skills, you know, that's something that can have an immediate impact when the inmate gets out of prison. And I'd also say, you know, these are not people that are, this is not about releasing people early or any of that. These are people who are going to get out, that they have completed their sentence or will complete their sentence, and you know, we want to make sure that they have a pathway to be successful. So with today's announcement, I'm appointing several dedicated individuals who have generously agreed to lend their expertise and support as the founding board members of the Florida Foundation for Correctional Excellence. I think 4 of them are here today. Ken Armstrong, president of the Florida Trucking Association, Eric Dellenbach, who's our director of the Faith and Community-Based Initiative out of the governor's office, Mark Reynolds, national director of Trinity Broadcasting Network, Denver Stutler, CEO of U.S. Submergent Technologies. We also have other folks, Doug Deason, friend of mine from Texas, very active in this sphere as a philanthropist. He couldn't be with us today. We were planning on doing this yesterday, but the weather was bad, and he had planned to be here. He's interested not only in helping lend his expertise, but also providing resources. John McGavin, Area General Manager for the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, could not be here, but will be on the board. And then David Hart, Executive Vice President of Government and Political Relations at the Florida Chamber of Commerce, who also couldn't join us today, but will serve on the board. So I think you have a wide variety of experience. I think you're going to have a lot of great ideas coming out of the board, and hopefully we engage private businesses, community organizations, faith-based organizations to provide this private partnership. And so I want to bring up Secretary Inch to say a few words about this initiative, and also just want to thank the folks who are with us here today, particularly some of our local legislators who are doing a good job. I know we got Wyman Duggan, Cord Bird, and Travis Cummings, so we want to thank them for all they're doing for Northeast Florida and Florida as a whole. So, General?
Thank you, sir. Well, thank you all for being here. Governor DeSantis, thank you for your vision, absolutely, and organizing this foundation. This is very important for us. Given our stated mission of providing rehabilitation and restoration, we do need the help of the communities that are going to welcome back these returning citizens. It is incumbent on us in the Florida Department of Corrections to provide access to communities, to businesses, to faith-based organizations, to build relationships while the men and women are still under our care and custody. That is incumbent on us to be able to do that in a safe way. But just think of its importance. Its importance is that with relationship already built prior to release, it takes away that uncertainty for the inmate of wondering, what am I going to do when I leave the gate? Because there's already somebody on the other side. There's going to be a community organization. There's going to be a business ready to hire. There's going to be a house of worship that has invited them to sit in their pew. This organization, I am so looking forward to gain on the experiences, recognizing that I am a new Floridian, to understand how in Florida we connect our communities with our institutions. So I am absolutely looking forward to seeing how this develops out, grows, and provides opportunities for our inmates to connect with their communities prior to release. Thank you.
Well, thanks, everyone. I'd take a couple questions before I leave. Anybody? All right.
What's the biggest change that we will see first?
Well, I think it's just, we have different industries, different trades throughout the state of Florida. I've heard it across the state, a desire, and part of it is not just with the prisons. I mean, we're doing a lot on vocational education in the high schools, with the state colleges, which is very important. We're going to continue doing that. But I think that there's really an interest in finding people who are willing and able to work and can do a good job. And so if we have a good sense of what that is, they can develop different programs through this foundation, they can provide the resources, and then they have an ability to create a pipeline of people into their industry. I think that there's a lot of interest in that throughout the state of Florida. And I think if we can get down to, heck, if we even get halfway towards where Operation New Hope has been, that'll make a huge difference in a huge number of lives. And it's not just the inmate that gets out, it's the family members and everybody around. And so that's a win-win for everybody.
Will this be open to just nonviolent offenders, or how will you make that determination?
Well, I think we'll probably go, I think the board will decide that, but I think what Kevin has done here is, you don't only do nonviolent. I mean, there's some offenses where I think that we don't do. So, like, for example, we wouldn't do somebody who was like a child molester or something like that. But we wouldn't just, I don't think we'll have a blanket rule that it's only nonviolent. And it's just because, I mean, there's a variety of different offenses out there. So, but the board, I think, will tackle that. But I do believe that there's, we want to provide a pathway for everybody, because, I mean, if somebody has committed an offense, if you give them a pathway, then they're less likely to go commit that offense again, and that's just that's what we're looking for here.
So it'll be more case-by-case basis?
Well, I think we'll let the board do it. I think what I would imagine they would do is there'd probably be some blanket exclusions for people like, sexual offenders. Obviously, people who commit really heinous crimes, would not. But if somebody gets into a fight at a bar and they end up, with an assault and battery, and they have to do some time, that would be somebody that we would not want to just turn the back on, I think, and hope that they can be rehabilitated. But I think all that will be worked out, once we get the board in place. Thanks, everybody.